What does polarized energy mean? Polarized energy means it allows the experience of opposites, black and white, hot and cold, day and night, soft and hard, love and hate. Source is a conscious, creative gestalt of energy that has personality, loves all of itself eternally, thinks. That's how Source creates all of creation, by thinking, and desires to experience everything that Source thinks. That's what we are. That's what all of creation is. That's what every ant is. Every piece of sand is Source, experiencing what it is to experience that type of life form, what it is to be like that. You are Source, because Source desires to know what it's like to be you. And that is the truth for everything within creation. But experiencing Source thoughts, in order for Source to experience the thoughts that Source has, an uncountable number of thoughts, it requires polarization of energy. Otherwise, all you can do is think and not touch, feel, experience anything opposite than being in balance eternally, because Source is in balance eternally. Source does not create distortion and imbalance. The smaller faces of Source, individuated faces of Source, you and I, all of creation, that are experiencing within the illusion of holographic reality fields, create imbalance through free will choice. And it's actually free will choice that has created the major imbalance that has allowed our reality field to express as an imbalanced reality field for over 26,000 years. And we're going to look at that, how that occurred, why it occurred, and why it's healing. The healing part's the wonderful part. But it requires some understanding of truth as to how that occurred to begin with, to then understand why it can heal. It's not possible to begin to understand Source until the point of that Source energy begins to step down in quantum of energy, meaning until Source begins the process of creating what we perceive as creation. It's not possible to, while we're experiencing as an individuated face of Source within the illusion of creation, to understand ourselves completely as all of Source at once. And the reason it's not possible is because of the amount of energy. However much that amount is, it's unfathomable in any layer within creation to even begin to understand what that means. There is no beginning to Source. There is no ending to Source. Source is eternal. Source always has been. Source is every attribute that you can think of that would be in balance, such as love, caring, kindness, joy, forgiveness, patience, abundance, healing. Source is everything eternally. And the energy of Source can express as imbalanced as well, but only within the illusion of holographic reality fields. Because the energy of Source, prior to stepping down in quantum of energy, amount of energy, is too strong, too hot, too high of energy to allow any imbalance to occur. It would be kind of like having a self-cleaning house and perhaps desiring to experience what it's like to live as a messy person and have a messy house and things thrown all over the place, and never being able to experience what that's like because your house eternally cleans itself. So, Source can only experience those kind of things within the illusion of what we perceive as creation, when the energy of Source steps down in quantum of energy. And we can't even really understand. There's nothing within creation to allow us to understand quantum as applied to source energy. What does that mean? It's not a pound, it's not an inch, it's not a mile, it's not a kilowatt, it's not a megabyte, it's not a terabyte. We have nothing. There is nothing within the illusion of creation to allow us to even conceptualize what the quantum of source energy is. We can look at creation, we can look at ourselves, we can look at the planet, we can look into outer space, we can look anywhere that we want to within creation. And if we can even pretend that we remember that it's all energy and it's all source energy, then how much energy, how much quantum of energy would it require to create everything that we perceive, don't perceive, and everything that occurs to allow what we do perceive to occur, which is called inner creation, before outer creation and us as source come to be. There is nothing within creation to allow us to understand quantum. We can apply numbers to it any way that we'd like. We could say one quantum is one quantum. We could say one quantum is a million quantum. It doesn't matter. You can, if you need to apply numbers and zeros to assist yourself to understand that, then you certainly can do that. And it doesn't make it wrong. It just means that we don't really have anything within creation to allow us to understand the quantum of the energy of source. So we're not able to fully understand what it means to be one with source, to return to source in oneness and no longer experiencing within the illusion of what we perceive as creation, but knowing ourselves as all of creation, whatever exists within creation, wherever it exists eternally. We can feel that a little bit within ourselves. If we pull our thought of creation being so huge, so massive, and we see all of these planetary bodies around us, the earth around us, however massive we view creation, if we pull ourselves, our thought, awareness, back into our head a little bit, and we think of just ourselves, and then we sit and think of our thoughts for a minute, just realizing that we have an uncountable number of thoughts that flow through our brain nonstop, 24/7, so much so that they do so on autopilot, and we're not even aware of most of them. That can give us a little tiny remembrance of what it might be like to be at one with Source, to know yourself as all of creation at once. But even that is just a little tiny remembrance because we're still perceiving within the illusion of space and time. And when you're perceiving within the illusion of space and time, it's kind of hard to forget that space and time is there. So we can't know exactly what that feels like until we return to oneness with Source. But we do have the ability to know. We should know. We shouldn't, I should not have to be sharing this with anyone. I should not have to be remembering this myself. We should all know these truths of creation and how Source creates, because we are Source, and we're not supposed to forget that truth of ourself. And we are co-creators as Source, because Source doesn't just create all of creation just to say, okay, I created that. Now what else can I create? And not experience it. Source creates in the desire to experience everything that Source thinks. So Source creates part of itself, puts part of itself within the structure, within planetary systems, within solar systems, within time matrix galaxies, within the multiverse, a multitude of faces of Source to allow Source to experience. And you're not supposed to forget that you're Source doing that. And there is a very real reason why all of the life forms on the planet have forgotten that. And that is healing. Even if you have not yet healed to a point that seems even possible truth to you, if you are an eternal life form, you will remember. Because Source is healing itself. Source desires to heal itself. And we are at a turning point of a time cycle of experience where it is now possible. Source has been healing itself for the last 26,000 years, that no one can remember if Source even really exists. Source has been healing itself all along. And we have reached the planet, and the life forms on the planet have reached the point now where the healing is reaching a critical mass that we're going to be able to begin experiencing it within our holographic reality field, and remembering that we're Source embodied, remembering that we're co-creators with Source, remembering how we're co-creating with Source, remembering why we couldn't remember these things for all of this time, and a whole lot more. But we can begin to understand Source and our relationship to Source and creation much better, and allow ourselves to heal faster by looking at some of the steps, the eternal creation process that Source creates all of creation through. Now, I am quietly aware that there is other information available in the planetary reality field. Not just information similar to this, but information through organized religion and all kinds of places, all kinds of thoughts. Anywhere within creation you can look and find pieces of things that talk about how Source creates. Science, 3D science, as I said, they don't include Source within the equation in any way, shape, or form. But they know that creation comes from somewhere, and they think that all they have to do is evolve their instruments and their understanding to be able to figure out where that somewhere is. Organized religion tells us that Source just is. Source always has been. You're not supposed to question or wonder why or who Source is or where Source is. You're just supposed to do as you're told and follow the rules and have faith and believe. And if you do that well enough, if you are considered to be worthy enough, then Source might accept you into the kingdom of heaven. Well, there's a lot of people that believe that paradigm of thinking, and Source allows all choices. So whatever anyone desires to believe is their truth, Source allows that, because Source is experiencing it, because Source desires to experience everything that is possible within creation. You could call the difference in between the different belief systems within the planet polarized energy, because that's what it is. It's polarized energy. And so within polarized energy, anything's possible. You can experience anything that you think. Even if you don't think you desire to experience it, you can still experience it if you think it. So if you think that that is the truthful paradigm, then that's what you'll experience, and it will be your truth. And that's why I say that doesn't mean that what I am able to share with you is your truth. It may not be your truth, but it is my truth within my understanding, the information, the knowledge that is opening up within me as a result of larger energetic things that are occurring within the planet. It is my truth that if you are an eternal life form, you will heal to remember the truth. And when you do, it will be a marvelous thing. It's not like sources beating anyone up and say, wake up and remember this. No, it's not like that at all. Source heals imbalance and Source creates imbalance. So you'll heal and remember in your own time, but you will remember. So it's not a matter of the desire to change your belief system, to change your truth. It's not necessary. It's just a matter of offering you things to think about, things to consider, or things that you may already be aware of and desire more understanding of, until you reach the point where you've healed enough to open that information within yourself, and that's when you know it's your truth. When you experience it within yourself as easily as you do breathing in and breathing out. You just know it. You know it. You see it within yourself. You feel it. You live it. You breathe it. You know when you have found truth. The challenge that the planet has been within for 26,000 years is there hasn't been hardly any truth here to find. And because of other larger dynamics that go along with that challenge, it's not just that there hasn't been truth here to find, but the truth has been being blocked from keeping the people of the planet from finding it. And that drama, we're going to look at that drama some. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to, but I'm told that it's going to be required to look at some of that to understand the wonderful event of December 12th, 2013. So we're going to look at that some. In our contemporary time cycle, in the last few years, this drama that has unfolded that included the long prophesized end time Armageddon, end of the planet prophecy that has been spoken about, especially in organized religions, for so many years. It has just been within our contemporary time cycle that all came to a head. And obviously, you're sitting here listening to me, and I'm sitting here recording this so that I can share with you. So it should be pretty obvious that the end time drama, as it was reported for so long, was going to occur, did not occur. Was it a real thing? It was a planned thing. Was it a drama, like it has been talked about within religious teachings and even within our more recent contemporary time cycle? A drama of ET life forms desiring to eat you and desiring to eat the planet. And if you've heard any of that information out there or integrated it, then you have awareness of those kind of things. If you haven't, well, whether you have or you haven't, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to fear. We've moved through that end-time drama scenario now. So the only reason that we need to discuss it some and look at it some is to allow us to understand this wonderful event on December 12th. But there's nothing to fear as far as those kind of things, ETs eating you and all of that drama. But the drama itself, the way that it outpictured, the way that it shone forth within the hologram of people reporting whatever they felt was truth to report, and the many different paradigms within the planet, such as the UFO movement, the New Age movement, even in the organized religious movement, actually, as the dreaded date of December 21st, 2012 quickly approached, then even that movement started worrying, being concerned about what that meant. Was it going to be the end of the planet? So it's all been, whatever paradigm you've cared to look within to see who is saying what, it's all been a drama that has outpictured in the hologram in some fashion, playing out, creating wars, creating the thought of one world order, creating things such as the 9/11 attack in the U.S., and just all of this drama outpicturing in the hologram. But we're going to remember within this presentation. And you may have an awareness of this, a mental awareness of this. But even if you have had a mental awareness of this, the experiential feeling of remembering the reality of what I'm getting ready to say here has not really been available on the planet to experience, know, and remember within yourself. And that is that it is impossible to experience anything outside of yourself in a holographic reality field, which is what the reality field on planet Earth is. It's what all reality fields are. But we're talking about our experience here on planet Earth, so it is a holographic reality field, light shining forth. It's impossible to experience anything within that light shining forth, regardless how solid and manifest and real it feels to you, if it's not held within you. So, if you have not encountered that thought before, well, it's something to just think about right now in the moment, because we're going to understand in a whole lot more detail what that means as far as the drama, the end-time drama, and distorted life forms and ETs and all of that. And the truth of what that means, I'm certain, is going to be quite surprising to everyone who hears this, or if they do not hear this, soon remembers on their own. And I think that part of the reason that I'm being asked, guided to share that information as well within this presentation is to kind of soften the blow of the realization of the reality of that, the distortion, the chaos, the imbalance that has occurred here. Because as that opened up within me to remember, to realize the truth of that, it was rather a shock to my system. And it took me several days, actually, of integrating energy and healing to get over that shock. So it's not that I'm any more special than anyone else. I don't know if other people on the planet have received yet that bit of information. I haven't spoken to anyone else that had, but that doesn't mean they haven't. It's not that myself or anyone else that might is any more special in that than anyone else, if they have received knowledge of that yet, or any of it. It's that the information that is becoming available within the planetary system is doing so because more of source energy is flowing into the planetary system now as a result of many things that we'll look at that unfortunately we have to look at within that end-time drama scenario that occurred. But it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered whether there was the end-time drama scenario or however that outpictured to experience within the hologram. Source will not allow the structure of creation to be destroyed or consumed. So that means that Source will not allow the structure such as planets to be consumed, to end as in the end time drama scenario with the beast and the devil, whatever you want to call that. Source will not allow that. Source will not allow the structure of creation to be compromised. Why will Source not allow that? Because there really is no separation within Source. Separation is an illusion, and we're going to look at the details that allow that illusion to come to be, to seem like it exists. But it's an illusion. It doesn't really exist. And since there is no separation within Source, that means there's space and time do not exist. There is everything. All of creation is Source. So Source is not going to allow itself to be compromised by itself that may have become sick within itself while experiencing within the illusion of creation. But when you're experiencing within a hologram that has encountered the damage that the Earth reality field has been held in for 26,000 years, we can look at that as structural damage, as damage within the energetic structure of the planetary system. And if that occurs, then that implies within all life forms on the planet at the same time, because everything is actually energy. And so to experience a life on planet in a holographic reality field, you have to put part of your source conscious energy within the energy of that reality field. And when whatever that reality field is dealing with within its energetic system, such as planet Earth, when you do that, then whatever that challenge is the planet is dealing with, it becomes your challenge as well. Because you have intermingled your energy with the energy that allows the planet to shine forth. So everything within and on the planet in these last 26,000 years has been dealing with the same thing. But that same thing is not as we have come to allow ourselves to believe it might be. And it's pretty amazing. So we'll get there. But we have to start at the beginning to get there. And the beginning is with Source, the original thought of Source. I'm putting together, as I'm building this program to share this information with you, image analogies to try to assist with some conception of things that I have carry within me to share with you. It should be understood, I know it hasn't been in our very recent experience on Earth, that images that anyone shares with us about anything, whether it's me, anywhere, anyone, any paradigm on the planet, are image analogies. They are images to represent some kind of concept that someone is trying to share some understanding with you about. The reason I want to point that out is because there have been other teachings on the planet that not purposefully, not intentionally, as far as people teaching them, and not just one paradigm. There are many different teachings on the planet that have taught us that specific images are sacred and divine and must be exactly as whomever presents it says they are, or they're no longer sacred and divine. That is not true. And we will come to an understanding of why that's not true. Everything within creation, whether it's an image analogy, whether it's a dead bug laying in the middle of the road, whether it's supper on the table, whether it's mosquitoes that, want to suck your blood and make you itch all the time. Whatever it is, however diverse it is, however we might consider it to be bad or evil or whatever, everything within creation is sacred. Because everything within creation is Source. So, to say that something is sacred and something else is not sacred is not true. Everything is sacred. As far as image analogies, they are image analogies. They are images trying to share with whomever's trying to share with whoever else. Concepts that they're talking about. So that's what these image analogies are that I'm working on as I'm doing this to share this information with you. And there won't be as many image analogies as there will be talking and sharing information with you, because the information is vast, massive, massive, massive. And if it's not like it, you become aware like reading a book. It's not like that at all. You have to experience the healing within yourself first. Source energy coming into yourself and opening up within you to allow you awareness of things that you forgot, things that you couldn't remember, things that you just didn't know. Truth. It becomes your truth when that occurs. And simultaneously while that occurs, healing any non-truths that you carry, because the non-truths block the truth. And I did not become aware myself in this current cycle of healing to be able to receive and share this information with you, how that occurs within you. And it's different for everyone as far as experiencing it. We are all individual faces of Source, so we're not all going to experience the life experience in the exact same way. But we will experience similarities. And as we share similarities, we'll realize, yeah, I experienced that too. Yeah. Well, I did this. Well, it was kind of like that, but it was like this. Similarities that say the same thing, do the same thing, but we experience them differently. But the process of becoming aware of the truth doesn't just open up automatically all at once within yourself, like reading a book. It opens up in bits and pieces as bits and pieces of you heal to allow it to open up. So you may become aware is the correct terminology there. You may become aware of a piece of something that is huge, that carries a lot of knowledge within it, and then get stuck at a point within that and say, well, wait, what comes next? Or I don't understand this piece here. What is this talking about? And even if you have open communication with your vertical family of consciousness, that doesn't mean that your vertical family of consciousness is going to be able to tell you what it means. Because it's kind of like, you could think of it like trying to talk about something like quantum physics with a 2-year-old. If the 2-year-old has no knowledge about quantum physics, and how many 2-year-olds do? Maybe there are some, I just don't know, but not very many if there are. If the 2-year-old doesn't have any knowledge of that information, then you can't have a conversation with that information, about that information with that 2-year-old, because they have no clue what you're talking about. It's the same thing in communicating with your vertical family of consciousness. When you have your line open and you can do that. If you get stuck in something, trying to understand a concept or a piece of information, it means that there's two things. Either more energy of Source still needs to come in that carries the pieces that you cannot yet reach, or there's a non-truth blocking that piece from your perception. So either way, it requires more of the energy of Source coming in to allow you to become aware of what it is you can't reach in that moment. And I personally did not become aware of that within this process until some point within the healing that allowed me to be able to be aware of how the healing was occurring within myself. And when I became aware of that, then when I reach moments where I'm not yet able to see the next piece, it allows me to know, okay, yeah, I just need to wait and allow this to heal and allow this to come in, whatever needs to occur. And then it does. And once I realized that, at first it seemed like it would take 2 or 3 days for me to become aware of whatever the next piece was. And now it may just be 2 or 3 hours. So it changes and it increases in cycles of how long it's going to take for something to heal for you to become aware of it. But it does heal. And I had allowed myself, not knowing that prior to healing, to know that, to become frustrated at those moments. It's like, oh, just tell me what this means. Just give me the answer. Please, please, please tell me, tell me, tell me. Well, when it opened up within me, when that wave of source energy opened up within me, then I could speak. I could communicate with my family of consciousness, and we could have a discussion about this. And then I could say, okay, I see this goes here and this goes here, but I don't understand why that does that. Can you help me understand that? Well, yeah, let's look at it this way. And even then, at least in my experience, it's not like your family of consciousness is going to say, yes, put this here, this here, this here, this here. Now that's right. Got that. Oh, no, it doesn't work like that. It's a matter of a teacher. It's as if they're a teacher, and they will help you to a point. They will help you find the tools to figure out the answer, but then allow you to figure out the answer yourself. And for a little bit, not very long, but for a little bit, I was allowing myself to be frustrated with that process too, because I didn't understand. I hadn't yet healed to the point to understand. And so I'm like, why don't you just tell me this answer? Well, when I finally understood, and the part that allowed me to understand that, become aware of it, was when I healed to the point to regain memory that the life experience is about the joy of the experience. Eternal life forms, healed life forms that are in balance, your vertical connection to source, multidimensional family, will never, ever, 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 ever interfere with your free will choice. Your free will choice is to have the life experience as source embodied. And the joy of that is the life experience itself. So within the life experience, it's self-discovery. If you have a life experience and you forget that you're source, well, then it's self-discovery to remember that you're source. And when you start to remember that, the joy within that is humongous. It's like, oh, you might slap yourself in the head and say, why did I forget that I'm source? Well, look, here I am. I'm source. It's the joy of the life experience. So your vertical family of consciousness is not going to hand you all of the answers that you're searching for on a silver platter. They will certainly assist you in any way possible, but you have to rediscover those answers as part of the joy of the life experience. So we have started at the center point of the original thought of source. And within this image analogy here, the outer rim, the outer sphere here, the large sphere on this page, is what I am using as an image analogy of the original thought of source. We could draw that however small or large we wanted to. It would be nice to have it large enough to be able to see everything else that's going to be drawn within it. So you wouldn't be able to draw everything within that little dot there in the middle of it. But you could draw that on the side of a building if you wanted to, or, something huge and make it as large as you wanted to. It's not going to change the fact that this image represents the original thought of source. And within the original thought of source is the center point of the original thought of source. And that center point right there is where creation process begins, where source begins creating a multiverse that source can create all of these energetic systems within to allow source to experience everything that source thinks. And it's at that point right there that we can begin looking at the eternal creation process and why it's an eternal creation process, what allows life to be eternal versus experiencing death of the physical body. And some of this information has been presented on the planet in the last few years in another paradigm of thinking. But within that paradigm of thinking, well, you'll have to determine that for yourself if you're someone that has integrated other information and accepted everything that you've integrated as truth. You'll have to revisit for yourself as you remember, or maybe that is your truth. If it is your truth, then it should be your truth. Whatever is your truth at any point is your truth, and that's the way it should be. But within other information that has been presented that's shown some of these pieces, it's not that anyone presenting that information purposefully or intentionally presented anything wrong, anything misleading, intentionally, consciously aware that they were misleading the public in what they were saying. The people that presented that information as truth believed it to be truth in the moment. And there's a few reasons why we would accept anything that is non-truth as truth. The main reason is because there hasn't been truth on the planet to find until, it began. The first part of January 13th is when I became aware that this information began slowly, not what I'm sharing now, but other information, other thoughts, other awareness to become aware of, began slowly to open up within the planetary system. But this information within this program, this mass information that's now flowing through the planetary system, has not been available for anyone on the planet to be able to access in 26,000 years. It is just now becoming available. So, whomever the individual was in whatever time cycle, the Jesus period, the current time cycle, whomever anyone was that presented what they presented as truth and accepted it as truth, it's some of it has been deceitful, but not necessarily deceitful by every person on planet. Deceitful for another reason that those people were not even consciously aware of. So this information, I just want to clarify this before we go. This information is not about proving anyone wrong or anyone right. It's about healing. It's about healing into truth. And whatever a life form chooses to believe is their truth, it should be that way. That is their truth. If it's not truth for them, then Source will heal them, and they will heal into the truth of Source. If that doesn't occur, then whatever their truth is divine. Source allows all choices. And regardless if your truth is my truth or anyone else's truth, whatever you accept as truth is what you will experience because you will create it. So this is not about making anyone right or anyone wrong. No one's not right and no one's wrong. Everyone is right, actually. Everyone. Because all of the other paradigms of teaching that exist on the planet do exist somewhere. And they do belong to life forms somewhere. But it is my truth that they do not belong to eternal life forms. And until we remember this information, some of this information within this program, we don't even really know what an eternal life form is. A lot of people think that means immortality. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as an eternal life form. So we have to start with the center point of the original thought of Source, and that's what we're doing. Within the center point of the original thought of Source is something called the Divine Trinity. The Divine Trinity is the first three base particles that Source creates as part of the creation process, and is part of Source that allows all of creation and all eternal life forms to exist and remain eternal life forms. The Divine Trinity has not been working within the Earth reality field for over 26,000 years, and is why death of the physical body and all illness occur. The Divine Trinity is what allows Source to self-generate energy quantum and eternally expand and grow. And all eternal life forms, are created in the image of Source, as individuated faces of Source, to hold the Divine Trinity within their self. From the micro to the macro level of creation, all eternal life forms hold the Divine Trinity within their self. The Divine Trinity not only allows for self-generation of energy, it also allows for accretion of energy, healing of any damage, and ascension. We'll talk some more for anyone that might be encountering this information that doesn't yet know what ascension is. We'll talk about that as we see the structure. The Divine Trinity was reset within planet Earth structural system, within planet Earth's energetic system, on September 9th, 2013. And this is an amazing event that needs to be understood to allow us to understand the even more amazing event that will occur on December 12th, 2013 in the Earth system. Within the original thought of Source, at the center point of the original thought of Source, Source creates the first 3 particles of energy in the creation process. The first particle that Source creates is a neutral charge particle. It has the potential to become base electrical or base magnetic, can be either one. And that base, or that potential neutral charge particle, create a base electrical and a base magnetic particle. I'm just listening a moment to see if this wants to go somewhere else. Okay. We could think of this slightly as a cell within our body, and we're going to understand a whole lot more about that as we move through this. But to try to conceptualize what this might be here, this Divine Trinity, you could think of it as a cell within your body. And it is the interaction of these first three particles of energy, of Source consciousness, that Source creates within the center point of the original thought of Source, that allows all of creation to occur. And we're going to see how that happens. This right here, this blue spiral going up here, is an image analogy to allow us that view of what is going to occur here. And this blue thing right here is an image analogy of the same thing, that spiral, as if you're looking down over it, standing over the table with this paper laying on the table, and you're looking down into this spiral and seeing something like this. So I've put the view of both of those on there to give us a viewpoint of both angles of it. This spiral and even the little white spaces in this disc-looking thing here implies space. That center dot in the middle of the original thought of Source implies space, meaning that dot on that piece of paper requires space to be there. And space doesn't really exist. It's an illusion, and we're going to see how that occurs. But in order to come to a larger understanding of creation, we have to, oh my, this has been really rough for my brain. We have to be able to look at the inside and the outside at the same time, kind of like having a foot in both worlds, 180-degree view, and being able to look at both sides simultaneously. So this right here that we're looking at right now would be considered the inside, inner creation. And this is the beginning of what is occurring within inner creation to allow outer creation, as we perceive it, to come to be. As these 3 particles interact with each other, they do an amazing thing. The base electrical particle and the base magnetical particle phase together. They go in and out of each other and into the neutral charge particle, and pushes out of the neutral charge particle a replicate of itself. Then it comes back in, and this happens again. And when it comes back in, the one that came in is divided to make two more identical copies of itself. So now there's three. These are conscious particles of source energy that divide and replicate theirself. And this is how source builds energy quantum, and also how source steps down energy quantum. The three go back out and come back in and divide, making two more copies. So now 9 go back out and come back in, 27 go out, come back in, 81 go out and come back in. And then that turns into 243. And you just keep going. And source quantum builds very quickly via the Divine Trinity, when the Divine Trinity can work. This is the way that source steps down the energy of source, steps it down from higher quantum to lower quantum. And that really, I had a lot of integration and healing to do to get my head around how that works. How can source energy step source energy down by building quantum of energy? And it's because it spirals. As each new birthing occurs, creating a twin set of the previous birthing, and that continues to increase, which is, it increases in quantums of 3. One coming in and 3 going back out. And that's why this is called the Divine Trinity. It's a base 3. So every time that something goes back out, there's 3 more than originally started with as 0. And as that occurs, the energy going back out, you have 1 becomes 3, becomes 9, becomes 27, becomes 81, etc., etc. It pushes the next one coming out, pushes the previous one, and it pushes it around around the sphere, which creates a spiral, and that's what this represents, the spiral. And as it continues to push and build quantum of energy, the first set that came out holds less quantum than the next set that's coming out. So as this spirals up around like this, around the center point, and away from the center point, and it's building and building and building and building and building, and the energy coming out keeps getting higher and higher in quantum by replicating itself. That higher in quantum continues to push the spiral around the center point, which is the center point of the original thought of source. And as it pushes it around, it pushes it out, away from the center point. That's why this spiral is going, expanding out like this, like a funnel. It pushes it out away from the center point. Now, we can think of, because we have to use the tools that we have available to us on planet in our awareness, to try to create analogies of things that we see that might be hard to conceptualize. We can think of this center point here as a source of heat, such as a sun, a source of really extreme heat. From our current experiencing within these physical bodies, it would seem like a source of extreme heat. But when you're of that quantum, when you're of the same heat, it doesn't seem like a source of extreme heat. But that means that as the energy source is building quantum of energy and pushing itself out, and the spiral expands out like this, like a funnel, growing and growing as it reaches the top, then this top part up here, as it continues to go out further and further, gets further and further away from the source of the heat, which means that not only is the quantum that was first generated continually pushed up, pushed out around the spiral, or up, if you're looking at it in this image of the spiral. Not only is it continually pushing the lesser quantum up and the higher quantum below it, but it's getting further away from the center point, and it's expanding it out further and further, which means this up here at the top is a whole lot colder than this down here at the bottom, because it's further away from the heat and because it's more diffused, spreading out from the center point. Now this image here, as I said before, this little disc right here that looks like a strange looking disc, maybe a hubcap on a car. It's the same concept of the center point in the middle and the quantum of energy building. More cells. You can think of this as a cell. More cells coming out from the center point. And each time that goes back in, replicating, duplicating itself, coming back out, building, building, building around that center point. Out, out, out. When this process has occurred within the original thought of Source, however large the original thought of Source is, and large is an expression, an illusion of creation as well, also. Because if you remember what I said in the bulleted list when I first started talking your head off here, space is an illusion. It doesn't exist. And thought is consciousness, conscious energy, which is Source, conscious energy thought, and it takes up no space. So to try to imagine that and then apply it to a circle that we call the original thought of Source, it takes up no space. So we can't really imagine, even pretend to imagine what that means. So we use an analogy that says this circle is the original thought of Source, however large that is. So as the particles of Source energy continue to divide and replicate themselves and push out around the center of Source energy, it builds quantum. And when a critical mass point is reached, critical mass point means the extreme point of the occurrence, such as when you do something like set a firework off and the fuse burns down and then the firework pops. The pop is the critical mass point. And within the original thought of Source, the critical mass point occurs when the quantum of energy building, spiraling out around the center point and stepping down in energy at the same time, because it's pushing the previous previous particles coming out away from the center point. So it's cooling that energy as the further that it gets away from the center point. And then when that thought sphere is completely filled with the energy of Source, and the next burst of Source energy is created from within that center point, and it's pushed out of that center point, it creates an explosion. It's like the ignition of all of that energy, like the wick on the firework. It creates an explosion that creates what science calls the Big Bang. Science is not wrong about that. 3D science is correct that creation occurred through a Big Bang. I just don't think that they have an awareness of how big that bang is. When that occurs, when the Big Bang point occurs, all of creation within our multiverse, in the outer part of creation, which is actually within the original thought of Source as well, and within inner creation, occurs instantly, simultaneously and instantly. And I know that it's extremely hard for us to get our brains around that, because we perceive our reality field with space and time. So how can something like that occur instantly? It does. It occurs instantly. And this is the process, the exact same process that our thoughts create. Our thoughts do the same thing. We build quantum of energy. Our thoughts are conscious energy inside of us. And we personally put into our thoughts by thinking energy, our source energy, our personal source energy. And the more that we think about that thought, the more energy is put into that thought. And when that thought reaches a critical mass, it does a big bang. And when it does a big bang, the other steps that we're going to look at here, which are quite extensive in and of themselves, but our thoughts do the same thing that these other steps are going to show us happens with the original thought of Source. Our thoughts, obviously, do not hold as much quantum of energy of the original thought of Source that creates all of creation as we know it. But they work in the exact same way by us putting our energy into that thought, constantly thinking of that thought, accepting that thought as truth, and forgetting that we even accepted it as truth. When we accept something as truth, it has already done the Big Bang point, and it becomes part of us, just part of who we are, and we just accept it as truth because that's just the way life is. It doesn't mean that it's there forever. It could be there for a long time, depending on the situation that you're involved in, as we have been on planet Earth. But if it's non-truth that you accept and you're an eternal life being, as I said, it will heal as you heal. But this is the way that all of creation is created, by quantum energy building via the Divine Trinity, which is 3, and that quantum energy building pushing more higher quantum into the center point of the original thought of Source, and spiraling the previously built quantum around that and away from the center point until the Big Bang point occurs. And